Some of you aren't going to like this one, and we'll know from the comments, so start checking those soon. Parents, stop using a diagnosis as an excuse for disobedience. Now, before somebody gets offended, listen carefully. I'm not saying ADHD, isn't real. I'm not saying autism isn't real. I'm not saying children don't struggle. I'm not saying some children don't need extra support and help and structure and counseling and intervention. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is this: a diagnosis is an explanation, not an excuse. Parents, some of your children get a label and you immediately throw away boundaries, consequences, expectations, and discipline. Well, they have ADHD. Well, they have ODD. Well, they have a chemical imbalance. Okay. And does that mean they don't need structure? Does that mean they don't need correction? Does that mean they don't need to learn self-control? Man, some of you use the diagnosis as an excuse because it would actually require you to parent your child. The Bible doesn't say train up a child unless parenting gets difficult. It says in Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go. When he's old, he'll not depart from it. Ephesians 6:4 says, parents, bring your children up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Notice what none of those scriptures say. It doesn't say lower the standard. It doesn't say remove the consequences. It doesn't say surrender your parental authority to your child because they have a special need. In fact, children who struggle and have special needs often need more consistency and more structure and more guidance, not less. Parents, hear me. Your job is to prepare your child to live in the world on their own. Now, I'm not talking about the child who has non-high functioning autism or special needs or one who's going to need constant care for the rest of their life. I'm not talking about them. I know that there's special circumstances that require parents to treat their children differently than they would a normal child. And I pray for you. My heart goes out for you and the children because those are extremely tough situations. You got a tremendous job, parent. So before anyone runs to the comments, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the ones whose parents use a diagnosis as an excuse for everything. I'm not just a pastor. I'm a high school teacher. I'm talking about the ones whose parents make every excuse in the book for why they can't come to class, sit down, and do their work. I'm talking about the ones who act like they've never had home training before and won't do what's asked of them. And I know why those kids won't do what's asked. The parents have never told them they had to. They've never established authority. They've never set clear boundaries. They've never enforced consequences because their child has a label. Listen, the world is not going to care that your child has ADHD. A future employer is still going to expect them to show up at work and do their job. A future spouse is still going to expect them to communicate. A police officer is not going to give a rip if your child has ODD and they're non-compliant. The goal of parenting is not to raise children who can explain their behavior. The goal of parenting is to raise children who can govern their behavior. As a parent, here's my question. Why would you want to use that as an excuse for your child not to learn self-control anyway? Now, look, let's clear the air because I'm raising a child with ADHD. There's days when she's bouncing off the walls. There's days when she can't focus. There's days when she's impulsive and she speaks without thinking. Am I going to excuse those behaviors and pretend like those are okay? Not a chance. Do you think I would allow her to go to school and disrupt the learning environment because she can't sit still and be quiet? Not a chance. It's mine and her mother's job to teach her, to train her, to guide her, to set boundaries, to enforce consequences. Why? Because one day, man, praise God, she's going to be on her own. She needs to be able to function at her job. She needs to be able to build healthy relationships. She needs to be able to hold her tongue and not say the first thing that comes out of her mouth. And I know why it's easier to allow kids to do whatever they want to do, because being a parent requires work. It requires discipline. It requires consistency. And many parents would rather let someone else deal with it. Somebody stop me when I start lying. Listen, I need to remind you today that every single person's going to stand before God to give an account of their lives. And by the way, parents, that includes how we parented or didn't parent our children. Stop making excuses and be a parent. Our job as parents is not to teach our children why they can't. Our job is to help them learn by the grace of God how they can. Stop using a diagnosis as permission to abandon parenting. Give grace, yes. Give support, yes. Give understanding, yes. But along with that, you better give boundaries, you better give consequences, and you better give instruction. Because people, listen, excuses don't prepare children for life. Training does. Parents, parent your children because the culture will not do it for you. God bless you today.